What is a unique selling proposition and why does it matter to your storytelling? Today, I'm breaking down a framework for one of the most important tools that you have in your arsenal to use storytelling to turn your viewers into clients. Hi, I am Darren. I'm a Writers Guild Award winning creator and producer who got her start right here on YouTube and then built a six-figure content business. And now I want to help creators and entrepreneurs become strategic storytellers so you can build a brand that people want to binge. So why is that important? Because YouTube of 2025 is different than YouTube of the past. YouTube is now the #1 TV streaming service. And the fastest way to grow, according to a YouTube employee, is to get people to binge. So how do you do that? You need to build a brand that people connect to. And the way that you do that is to use your storytelling. So what is a unique selling proposition? Well, a unique selling proposition is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It is a concise statement that communicates what differentiates your business from any other business. Now, if we're talking about YouTube channels, what differentiates your YouTube channel from every other YouTube channel, particularly YouTube channels in your niche? So you say, Darren, how is that different from my offer? Well, I'm glad you asked, because your offer is your product or your service. It's your package. Your unique selling point is what makes that unique. So if I'm Kelly Clarkson, for example, and I wish I was, but that's another point. My unique selling proposition is that I am the first American Idol and I can sing literally any song and crack you up at the same time and also make you cry. She can do both. Her offer is her music or her talk show. So how do you develop your unique selling proposition? Well, I developed a method, a framework for doing just that. It is called the A.N.G.L.E method, A.N.G.L.E. That's right. And it is all about developing your unique angle. Let's start with A. A stands for audit your assets. And when I say assets, I mean your story assets. And that includes your backstory, your credentials, and your personal experiences. Now, if you haven't developed your backstory, I have another video where I break down a 5-part framework for developing your backstory. It's just 5 questions that you need to answer for yourself. I also have a free workbook that you can use to come up with your backstory. So I will link that in my description. And after you finish this video and you have your unique selling proposition, you head on over to that video and you develop your backstory. By the end of this video, you will have your own unique selling proposition. So if you pair that with your backstory, you have some powerful storytelling. The other story asset you have is your credentials. And when I say credentials, I mean your professional credentials, your work experience, your client successes, maybe any awards and achievements you've received, but it also doesn't have to be professional credentials. If you're someone who has a lot of curiosity and passion for a topic and you are making videos where you are doing deep dive research into that topic, then that research is your credentials. You'll see this with creators who will create videos that have a title similar to, I watched 1,000 videos and here's what I discovered. Right? So they're not leaning necessarily into their professional experience or their client successes necessarily, but they're leaning into their research. Personal experiences is your life experiences. And I actually have another free workbook that you can download in my video description that has 16 prompts that you can use to mine your life experiences for these stories. That all becomes just an arsenal of stories that you have that you can weave throughout your content. Then you move on to N and G. Now, I'm grouping them together for a reason, and I will explain that momentarily, but N stands for narrow your niche, and G stands for guide the gap. So narrowing your niche is all about not going after the big, broad, oversaturated niche, but trying to target specific struggles or a specific segment of that niche. So why is that important? Because YouTube is all about personalization, and you really get the algorithm working for you when you can be very specific about who your viewer is. If you go too broad, which sometimes I struggle with on this channel, it becomes harder for the algorithm to figure out exactly who your viewer is, who is going to respond the most to your videos, who is going to be helped the most by your videos. So the more you can narrow your niche and focus on specific struggles or a specific segment within your niche, the more the algorithm is going to work to your advantage. So what you want to do is you want to ultimately become the only person who blanks. So the only person who addresses this specific pain point, the only person that has this twist on this struggle that I'm facing, that's what you want to ultimately become. But the way that you do that is you do competitive analysis, which is where guide the gap comes in. And that's why I say I group the N and the G together, because really the G should come before the N, but A.N.G.L.E is not a word. So an angle is super cute. So we're gonna go with A.N.G.L.E and you're just gonna group those two together. Guiding the gap is all about competitive analysis, and it comes in two phases. The first phase is all about validating that there is interest in your topic. Now, there most likely is interest in your topic because there is an endless number of topics on YouTube, but you still need to do the step to validate that there is interest in your topic. Because if there is nobody searching for your topic, then you're not going to get viewers no matter what you do. So you want to validate that there is interest. That is part one. The second part is trying to figure out where there is a gap in the market and how your knowledge and your expertise and your passion and your curiosity can fit within that gap. What you're trying to find is that missing conversation. So you want to validate that there is a conversation, and then you want to find what is the missing conversation within that topic. So how do you do competitive analysis? Well, I'm going to lead you through a process that I learned from Molly Kaiser. She's a creator here on YouTube, fantastic creator. She mostly focuses on digital products, which is why I started following her, because I was launching some digital products, and she has a particular process that she follows that I thought was really interesting. So I'm going to share a little bit of that. So what you do is you create a second YouTube account. So not the one that you are using to build your brand. You have a second YouTube account. Maybe you already have one. If you don't, then you want to create a second YouTube account. Now what you're going to be doing is you're going to be using that YouTube account like your viewer, which means you're going to be doing some searches. So if it's me and my channel is about storytelling, then I'm going to do some searches about storytelling. And then I watch a couple of videos that are recommended to me. You watch at least a little bit of it, and you'll notice that your homepage starts to refresh and your homepage starts to fill with creators that are all talking about storytelling and content strategy. Then what you're going to do is you're going to create a spreadsheet. I will also have this as a link in my description, but you can totally create this on your own. It's pretty simple. If you're in my school community, this template will actually be in the class section, in the tools and templates section, so you can grab it there. If you're not in my free school community, I'll take the opportunity to tell you to join it. It is called the Storytelling Room. In it, you'll find templates like this and tools like this. You'll also find videos, and you'll find an active community of other creators who are growing on YouTube and do have an interest and passion for storytelling. The conversations have been very active, so if you haven't joined, that link will also be in my description. My description is going to have a lot of links in it, I think, by the end of this video. That's the takeaway that I'm grabbing. Okay, so you create your spreadsheet or you use my template and you want to have the following information in it. You want a column with the channel name. You want a column with the channel URL. You want a column maybe for the number of subscribers. That number is going to change, but you maybe want to have that there so you have some reference. You want to have a column where you can write out what you think their focus is. And you want to have a column for their about description. And then what you want to do is you want to find their top 3 performing videos over the last year. So if it's a channel that's been around for years, you don't want to pick videos that were released years ago, because you want to validate that there's interest in this particular topic this year. In fact, If you can do it within the last 6 months, that would be even better, but definitely within the last year. And then you want to have a column that has the name of that video and a column that has the URL. Now you want to gather this information for 10 to 20 creators. Then you want to go to your favorite AI chatbot. If you don't use chatbots, then ignore this, but this is where I think AI can be very helpful as a strategic partner, is in analyzing a lot of data, right? Either you are going to have to manually try to sort through the data and try to find patterns, or you can use an AI to help you do that. It works best when you are using ChatGPT regularly so that it has some information on your channel already, has some information on your voice and your content. But if you don't, and even if you do, this is the prompt that you want to give it. I'm going to read this, so pardon me. I'm a YouTube creator in the blank niche. My focus is on this transformation. My backstory is this backstory. So you need the backstory video if you don't have a backstory, but you want to put your backstory in. My credentials are, and you give your credentials. Some competitors in my niche are, you list out some of those competitors. You could list all of them. If you do 20 of them, you could list them all, but maybe you list 10. ChatGPT can process a lot of data, so you could list more if you want, but I would say list 5 to 10. Some competitors in my niche are, and you list out the names of those competitors. Please do a competitive analysis analyzing focus, strengths, gaps, pricing, and how I can differentiate myself with a unique offer and content. Then your AI chatbot will spit back a competitive analysis in a chart. You could actually tell it to put it in a chart. Since I didn't say that, you could say, please put it in a chart. But it probably will put it in a chart. The more information that the chatbot has on your backstory and your credentials and the transformation that you're thinking of offering and your competitors, the more it can help you fine tune how you can differentiate yourself in that market. This is actually how I found my own angle. And that is actually going to lead me into my next point, which is the L, which is leverage your language. So now you hopefully have your backstory. You've also narrowed down your niche to that statement of the only person who blanks. You've done your competitive analysis and you've figured out the missing conversation. Now you want to take those elements and come up with your signature phrase. If you've noticed on my channel, I say, think like a showrunner. I say that at the end of my videos. I say that sometimes earlier in my videos where I'll say you don't need to be a showrunner, but you need to think like one. That's become kind of a trademark for me, right? Thinking like a showrunner. That's the way that I differentiate myself amongst all of the other creators that talk about storytelling. That's a signature phrase that I use. That concept of being a showrunner is a new concept for a lot of creators and entrepreneurs, particularly if you're just starting out on YouTube, and it's kind of a lofty concept, right? And so I was actually hesitant to use that concept. I knew that was endgame for me, that I want to train creators how to be showrunners, but I thought I needed to do kind of like a little bit of preliminary education to get a creator to the place that they can be a showrunner. Then I realized that is what differentiates me, right? My background as a digital showrunner and a live event showrunner is what is differentiating about me. So I decided to introduce the concept of thinking like a showrunner because it is intriguing, it is memorable, and it also gives an opportunity for growth and for transformation. So try to think of what your signature phrase could be. That could be something like think like a showrunner that you repeat within your videos. It could be something that's in your about description. It could be something that's in the way you introduce yourself, but it becomes a signature phrase and it is a way that people will remember what you do. You can focus on a feature or a benefit like Volvo does with safety. You can focus on an action like Canva does. You can focus on a transformation like Kit, but be specific. So there you go. Now you have your unique selling proposition. The last state is execute and evolve. This is all about learning. This is all about testing things out. Some of the key metrics that you want to look at to figure out if people are connecting to your unique selling proposition are your click-through rate, because if your click-through rate is low, then you're either not speaking clearly enough to a specific struggle, or you're not speaking clearly enough to a specific audience. Either way, the algorithm gets very confused as to who the audience is, and it ends up going to a very broad audience, and that audience doesn't click because they don't have the problem that you're talking about in your video. The other metrics that are important is your audience retention metrics. This tells you if your message is resonating. Now, I have a very simple video structure called the hook, heart, help, hero method that you can use. I have a video on my channel that breaks that down, so if you haven't watched that one, you can check that out. Really, the sum of all this is that there are a lot of videos on this channel that talk about storytelling. So that means that whatever video is popping up on the screen right now is one that you should be checking out next. Until next time, keep creating and keep thinking like a showrunner.